Generating money requires you to deliver value. Value in the sense that you need to deliver something better, quicker, and cheaper. That's the whole agenda.
This podcast encourages and empowers you to create your own unique real story, develop your own unique real statement, and discover your own unique real self. The power is yours. Good morning, Ahmed Muzammil. Previously, episode 326 of the 12-Minute Convos podcast. It's been just 2 years, 11 months, 9 days, 22 hours since we last had a recorded conversation.
Don't try to do everything yourself. Go seek the experts.
That was then. This is now. Ahmed, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much, Angel, for having me again.
Yeah. Now, what part of the world are you in right now?
I am in Singapore.
All right, so you're still in Singapore, right? You
Still in
haven't
Singapore.
moved. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So what's the update? Like, what's going on? What's new in your world?
Well, so many things happened in the last 2 years and 9 months and 22 hours. So that was a nice number. So when we spoke first, I was about to quit my day job and go full-time into entrepreneurship, run my own consulting business. I was already running my own consulting business at that time, and I was about to jump in full-time. I was about to give notice to my job as well. That was the time when we spoke first. That kind of delayed for about 3 or 4 months, I guess. And then I quit the following year. Well, I was really excited about quitting the job and going ahead and all those things. Everything went as planned on that part. But, after I quit my job, I went through a lot. And the business wasn't doing that well and stuff like that. So I really ran that business for about 2 years without a job. And there were so many things that I went through. Yeah, I'd like to speak about that today.
Yeah, sure. I think a lot of individuals would love to hear lessons that you learned during that process. Now, are you full-time now, or have you entered into a work arrangement again?
Yes, I entered into a work arrangement again. So there are a lot of lessons that I learned throughout the journey, from quitting the day job and going full time and coming back to a day job. So there were so many lessons I learned, and so I'm just looking way forward. I think I'm a better businessman as well as a better employee and a manager, I would say. So yeah.
Dig into that. Like, not even one, like, what were some of the lessons you learned?
The biggest lesson is that don't quit your job before you build a sustainable business, a profitable business. When it comes to that, it's about learning cash flow, because as an employee, you don't have to worry about the cash flow. Every month on a fixed date, you will get your paycheck, or every week you'll get a paycheck, whatever. So you don't have to care about working hard to bring that money in. But when you switch to a founder, an entrepreneur, or that to a full-time entrepreneur, your whole income relies only on you. And when I think of it now, it's a really scary thing. I didn't plan for that. If you don't market it, if you don't generate leads 2 months back, then you won't have sales this month, right? So it's a process that you need to follow. You need to generate the leads, then nurture them, and then close them. So that takes at least 3 months in general.
So would you say, Ahmed, you've had experiences where you were learning, you were digesting information from different online mentors.
Yep.
Would you say that the information isn't accurate for that particular subject in terms of how you'd really, the skeleton and the bones and flesh of your business?
Yes.
Is it really communicated well in the online space?
It's overrated. It's overrated online. That's another learning that I had, because people just speak of like, go hustle, and you'll make money and all those things. It doesn't always work that way, because hustling doesn't always generate you money. You need to hustle in the right manner, right? You need to be smart about that as well. Not only if you're just a hard worker that just goes and knocks doors, wrong people, then you will never generate money. And the other thing is that people paint very different pictures, just like the fitness. We've been seeing a lot of online nonsense, like fitness experts and stuff like that. They just show their body like a six-pack ab or whatever. And like there are so many Instagram accounts which just show that they are living a very luxury lifestyle, whereas they're just going and hiring a luxury resort and like they're just shooting pictures over there, and they paint a very different picture. So altogether, the online world paints a very different picture of entrepreneurship than the reality.
I agree. How did it affect your family though? Like, of course, you have family, yeah,
Oh,
wife, children. How
yeah.
did that go?
I'm an Indian national. I was working in Singapore. So I had a visa to stay back in Singapore. But once I left my job, I had to move back to India. So that was planned as well. So I moved back to India. But once the regular flow of income that came from the salary stopped, your mindset completely changed. My mindset completely changed. It changed from there's two things like the growth mindset and the scarcity mindset. I think my mindset completely shifted from growth mindset to scarcity mindset. Like, how can I run the business with the money that I have instead of going and finding new business to grow the money that I have, right? So that is a very big lesson. As I said, like I had to have planned for the cash flow. I should have generated enough leads, ready to bring in sales for the next 3 months at least before I quit my job. That is the biggest lesson that I learned because I never planned for that. I had sales for about 3 months. I think I surpassed my monthly income from my salary for 3 months. Then I just quit my job. But that isn't enough. I should have had the view for the next 3 months to generate the same money, which I didn't plan for that.
Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, I think there's a ton of things that you're teaching here. And tell me if I'm accurate or not. But from my experience, what I've seen is, first of all, the personal side of your expenses need to be taken care of and accounted for and have an emergency fund there. And then the business side as well needs to have that if you're transitioning from part-time or even if you're on a full-time job and you want to go into full-time entrepreneurship. I think those are two critical points that you should attain before you switch over. Do you agree with that?
Yes, of course. Yeah. And the other thing is that I'm a family guy, so I have like dependents who rely on my income,
Yes.
right? I mean, whereas the general online picture is that most of them are single or, living in with their girlfriends or whatever, right? So they don't have that expenses for a family guy. Like, I mean, I have 3 kids now. So we have regular expenses and,
Yeah.
taking care of their education and stuff like that. I don't think the online world paints these pictures clearly, right?
Yes.
I mean, what you have to look out for and stuff like that. Most people just say, hey, quit your job, quit your job, quit your job. But I say, don't quit your job. That's my lesson.
As well as we can agree that the markets are tremendously different as well. Yes, there is the online space, but when we look at what's happening in Singapore, what's happening in India, what's happening in Trinidad, what's happening in the US,
Yeah.
which is part of business, most of these individuals in the online space already have brick and mortar businesses or
Mhm.
have businesses where they're going face to face with other clients. Like that's the reality, and the market is different, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. Okay, most of the course sellers and the coaches, what they do is that they see a couple of successes. I mean, there are good coaches like who really teach stuff that really works. I know how to identify them now, bought courses from different people. But there are so many people who have less experience, like say they run a business for 3 months and they made about a few $1,000 and they just say that, oh, I have a system that works for you and just go and implement this. You can generate like thousands of dollars from selling consulting services or selling courses or whatever. Another thing is e-commerce, right? Just say that open up a Shopify store and then money will
It doesn't work
rain
that
on
way.
you, right?
Yeah.
The whole point is that generating money requires you to deliver value, right? Value in the sense that you need to deliver something better, quicker, and cheaper, right? Better, quicker, and cheaper. That's the whole agenda. If you're not doing anything better than your competitors or cheaper than your competitors or faster than your competitors, you're not bringing any value to the world, right? And there is no way that you could stand out from other businesses out there.
My friend, I appreciate you coming on here and sharing from the bottom of your heart what has been your experience. I believe that this too will help you to grow in the future as well as help you to identify who you can help. You have experienced something that there are many people that are going to experience in the near future and many people who've already experienced it. And you being able to help them is something that I would strongly suggest you look at from that experience, especially where there's the family involved. For those that are thinking about switching, to consider, at least to consider these truths that you are sharing. So I appreciate that tremendously. My friend, our time has run by as quickly as it started. But Ahmed, I do appreciate you so much. I'll ask you one more question though. After
Sure.
experiencing all you've experienced, the conversation of death, have you had that conversation that you could die today or tomorrow? And how do you approach that?
Well, I don't think about it much. for me, but I have seen so many people think about that and, do a lot of stuff faster and bringing more impact to the world. I honestly don't think about that at this point. I'm a very futuristic person, so I kind of like have an image of the next 5 years in my mind. Thinking about negative stuff, I just think that it pulls you more into the negative area. So I try to stay positive. I don't think about that at all.
All right, Ahmed. Well, my friend, again, this has been a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
Well, deliver more value, right? If you're starting a business, make sure that you deliver tremendous value more than your competitors. And that is the way to succeed in business and mind your cash flow. Have at least next 3 or 6 months of business planned before you quit your job. That's my advice.
I appreciate you, champion. A pleasure. I treasure again, Ahmed Muzammil. Thank you for being on What is Inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. This podcast is produced by Pod Edits. Visit podedits.com for professional podcast publishing.